Hello everyone, welcome back to Analysis Trends. In this video, we are going to cover the chapter 3.2, and I hope you are enjoying watching my previous videos on chapter 1, 2 completely, and previously on chapter 3.1. So let's get started with the plan stakeholder engagement approach, which is 3.2. So basically, stakeholder engagement approach. In this, as a business analyst, we plan how we want to, how, when, and why, and on what we want to, and discuss and collaborate with stakeholders. Like how we want to identify the stakeholders, who are our stakeholders, why actually we need to communicate with them, and what is the purpose of communicating, what should be the communication method, what kind of techniques, guidelines we can use while communicating with them is all discussed in this chapter. So I will take you this chapter as a journey of a business analyst, how he or she performs. So the purpose here is to create an engagement with the stakeholders and build a relationship that will also build a trust for any business analyst who communicate with the stakeholders. And the reason we want to communicate with stakeholders and build the relationship because we want stakeholders to answer all our questions we ask, and they will help us in the information they provide that will have an actual problem or opportunity or the need provided. Now, we as a business analyst should be very smart in order to understand their answers, identify the information, and that information will leave us the requirements that are actually needed to build the solution. So, stakeholder engagement approach help a business analyst to actually gather the requirements. So that's the purpose of stakeholder engagement approach. Okay, the the inputs we need here is basically we need inputs as the problem or the the need or the opportunity that has been identified by the stakeholders or that has been identified by the organization, but we need to have that well prepared in the mind that what are the stakeholders looking for or what are the stakeholders uh, facing the problem with, right? And then we also need to have understanding of what would be my approach before even if I communicate with the stakeholders. What would be my level of communication? What would be my method of collaboration? How do will I communicate with the stakeholders? What are the questions that I need to be asked for based on the opportunity or based on the need that is being provided? So that's basically the input to this particular chapter. Next is an element. So we got three different elements, I guess. The performance stakeholder analysis, then you got defined stakeholder collaboration, and then you got stakeholder communication needs. So if I go back and go to perform stakeholder analysis, so now we are analyzing who are our actual stakeholders, what are their roles, how is their attitude, and what is the decision making authority and how much level of influence they make. Now, basically you let's say if you want to create or if you want to approach for you're creating a birthday party, and now you want to basically provide people sorry provide invitation to all the people who you want to invite. Now you will basically categorize based on like your friends, your family, your cousins, right? In the same way, the group is also divided here. Like we got vendors, we got a project team, we got an actual stakeholders who are the end users or the one who's like a contract who gave us the project, right? So all this are actually your stakeholders. Now, what are we actually identifying, or what are we actually analyzing here is how a business analyst is basically uh, impacted and how much that particular business analyst is ready to be open up to provide the information for the questions you ask, right? The roles of the stakeholders are very important here because the information you need to extract out from the conversation you do with the stakeholders, you need to have an understanding of what roles they are, what roles the stakeholder is having, He's like a company owner, he's like a kind of head of the department or something like that, right? In order to engage with the stakeholder, you need to understand their roles first, and identifying their roles will definitely contribute with the various level of details they want to provide to you. Next is an attitude. How and how and why is the way the stakeholders behaving in that way? What is that we can accept as a stakeholders characteristics, right? The stakeholders will have an attitude of providing information at a very peaceful way or a very straightforward way. There might be some other stakeholders who might depend on situations, will not reveal everything at once, right? So in that way, basically, stakeholders should analyze what are the business goals, what are the initiatives, uh, what is the level of interest they have, who is the sponsors, will the stakeholders be collaborative or not? So stakeholders' positive attitude may result in a strong champion and a great contributor for the project success. If the stakeholder has a negative attitude, basically that would lead to a risk, right? And that is what we need to analyze with each and every stakeholder group, correct? Then you got decision making authority. You need to understand what kind of rights or what kind of decision making authorities each stakeholder have based on the activities, based on the deliverables, based on the change of whatever you are working with in the business analysis tasks. Next is we need to have a level of power of influence, that how much a stakeholder can influence to happen, to make this change happen, or to basically make this thing happen, or to move the process, or to make a certain decision on different strategies, right? So obtaining buy-in from a stakeholders, that will help you to get your requirement signed off, and that would lead you to move the project successfully ahead. If the stakeholders attitude is not influenced by your communication or by your engagement, that would lead to a risk. Okay, that is what is basically explained, and if you read it now in that sense, you will able to understand that. Next, we are defining the stakeholder collaboration. How we gonna collaborate with the stakeholders? What kind of engagement we need to be having, and how should be our engagement be dependent on? See the timing of and the frequency of collaboration. The point is, uh, let's say we are doing a meeting for one day, and then after 1 month we have no collaboration, no updates with the stakeholders, and after 1 month if you reconnect with the stakeholders, definitely there is a gap, and that should not be happening with any stakeholders, because any no matter if there are two stakeholders in a project and one stakeholder is dependent for the first five requirements and the second stakeholder is dependent for the second five requirements, no matter even you communicate the stakeholders, the second stakeholders for the first requirement and communicate the second stakeholder for the second requirement. That means there is a stakeholder A, there is a stakeholder B. Irrespective of requirements, you need to communicate the updates to both the stakeholders. That will definitely build a buy-in from the stakeholders and give you a positive, give them the positive attention, as well as they will be helpful for you to provide more information. The location, the tools, the method, and the preferences of the stakeholders are very important when you collaborate with them. The third one is stakeholder communication needs. What kind of what needs to be communicated? You need to be very clear about it. What is will be delivery method? Will be written or verbal or email? Appropriate audience should be during the communication. Communication should occur like when is the communication frequency of the communication, like recurring communication, level of formality, level of detail, and then location wise. And then how this guidelines will help you. So business analysis performance assessment, so that particular guideline will help you to provide and assess your performance, as well as show the review or incorporate with the results of assessments. Change strategy, how does solution get impacted, stakeholder get impacted with this, and what are the stakeholder engagement strategies. And current state description, to understand where our business is landing, where is the problem. You will able to understand the detail desire that is actually need to be looked forward as a future solution. You can use lot many techniques. Some of them mentioned here. We can discuss like brainstorming to extract to identify need in more good way to extract information from the stakeholders by doing those sessions. You can do interviews, one-on-one interviews with the stakeholders to understand in more detail. You can do a mind mapping technique is basically used to understand what the stakeholders are trying to communicate. Then you got other techniques which we will be discussing in the chapter 10 later, but these are the main techniques you can go through now. Then the stakeholders, like some of the stakeholders that are mentioned is customers for external stakeholders. Domain subject matter expert is an internal sub SME. The end user is an external or can be internal. The project manager is also your stakeholders, regulators, sponsors, and suppliers. So you would definitely need all those people as well as your actual stakeholders. Probably each of the stakeholders here are mentioned are actually helpful for you to collaborate with the actual stakeholders. So these are some of the major things you will be major stakeholders you will be contacting with, right? um, See, if you look at domain subject matter expert, they will help you to identify the stakeholders that they themselves belong to one or more role, right? If you deal with regulators, they will may require a specific stakeholder representative or a group that involved in business analysis activities. And what actually output is provided after this whole chapter is a stakeholder engagement approach. You will have a list of stakeholders ready. Then basically you will have list of their roles. Then the responsibility of change, you will identify what kind of method I'll be using for collaboration, and then you will utilize that particular opportunity to collaborate with the stakeholders. The first thing you do to identify the stakeholder is a stakeholder mapping. So you will have somewhere here called stakeholder map, I guess. Let's see in the techniques. Okay, I guess process modeling or document analysis. Oh, here, stakeholder list or map per persona. So stakeholder map is a technique where you will able to draw the tree diagram of the stakeholders and able to map, not the tree diagram, sorry, a diagram where it shows the department by stakeholders, and you will have the goal in the center. So you can go and search in the Google. That is very good for you to start with. So thanks for watching. Stay connected on this channel. Subscribe, share this videos to your friends, to any BAs, and follow me on LinkedIn, and see you again in the next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.